All right, everyone, we have to talk about Jeff Sessions, the drug war. This sort of goes along with Vermont the House here voted to legalize marijuana. It's already been decriminalized for years here. Nobody really cares, but they're voting to legalize it fully. People will be able to grow a plant or two, have a little bit more than an ounce without being labeled a dealer and so forth, certainly the medical side. New Hampshire, their Senate voted to decriminalize, and over there it looks like they definitely get decriminalization. We probably get legalization. I can't imagine Phil Scott is going to stand in the way of even a lot of Republicans in the legislature here. But Jeff Sessions, on the federal level, things are backsliding. This is one thing that I have a problem with. Not with Trump himself, because his own statements, he's in favor of medical marijuana. He says on recreational marijuana, he's basically a leave it to the states person, which means nobody cares. But on Sessions and his idea of drug policy, he seems to think that doubling down on the tough on drugs stuff is somehow magically going to help the opiate epidemic within the United States. It won't. You got to realize, at the state and federal level, I don't know if Sessions even is aware of this. There's a fine line between the amount of a drug that gets you incarcerated for simple possession and the amount that gets you incarcerated as a dealer, and the threshold for proving that there was intent to distribute is essentially just based on how much of the drug you have. So here, under decriminalization here in Vermont, if you have under an ounce of marijuana, the most that you get is a small fine, a slap on the wrist. That is, they confiscate it and fine you. You're not going to prison. It's not even a misdemeanor. It's just, or it's a low-level misdemeanor, or whatever the fuck they class it as. But if you have an ounce and a gram of marijuana, it's a felony, intent to distribute. That makes no sense whatsoever, which is why we need to move to the legalization model so that, you know, somebody they're like, yeah, I'm in chronic pain. I sit here and smoke all day. I've got, like, massive cancer. I'm going to die anyway. Who fucking cares if I'm smoking up? Or they're, like, paraplegic or something. You know, I'm not driving a car. I'm not going to be publicly intoxicated, so who cares? It's a problem, and the biggest part of the problem that I have with the tough on drugs sort of thing is that it diverts resources. When you class all these drugs together under the DEA's current scheduling program, you know, it'd be one thing if marijuana were legal, or at least on a low schedule. You could get it medically, small amounts for recreational purposes. Nobody would fucking care unless it's like DUI. And the psychedelics were in their proper schedules because most of them, they're not addictive. They do have medical benefits. They shouldn't be top scheduled drugs. Hard drugs, you know, something like crack, meth, that's a different story. But some of these psychedelics have definitive, proven health benefits. Magic mushrooms can help with depression, long term. Ecstasy, you know, which some people claim, oh, it makes holes in your brain, which is crap. They're talking about like tainted product. It can help with PTSD symptoms. LSD has psychological benefits potentially to it. All of these various psychedelics do. Both the more synthetic side, like LSD, and the more natural side, like psilocybin mushrooms, the amanitas, something like that. If they were properly scheduled, you could be tough on the harder substances, and people probably wouldn't have a problem with it. That is, if someone's just addicted, they should be in rehab. If someone's dealing crack or heroin or something, I have no problem with locking them up behind bars for 10 years. I have no problem with locking up dealers and pushers. In fact, that would be a good thing. But the thing is, a lot of these people that are getting incarcerated under those laws, what are they doing? They've got some marijuana, or they've got a bunch of acid tabs or something. It's not the same thing. The idea that these substances are all the same, that you have to have a broad category of drugs and make no differentiation between the different types of drugs and how they're typically used, it's ludicrous. It denies the basic human understanding of biochemistry is completely denied by the DEA's scheduling system. If we base it on actual science, if we stop ignoring the fact, well, like caffeine is a stimulant, tobacco is highly addictive, alcohol is an extremely dangerous depressant in significant amounts. The drugs that are legal and the drugs that are illegal are all over the place as far as how they affect the body. The amount of addiction potential or potential for habituation. the lethality in easily acquired and generally used doses, as well as the potential fatality rate for higher doses that could, in theory, be acquired or something. For instance, marijuana. You're probably not going to die from smoking marijuana, at least directly. You're not going to overdose and jump out a window because you greened out. It's just not likely to happen. Millions of people smoke it anyway. We have an opiate problem, as Sessions correctly identifies, because we've got a porous border and cartel activity. Yes, Trump should build his fucking wall. He should deport the fucking cartel members. He should leave. I don't care if he has to throw money at the Mexican government to get them to take them back. He needs to get them out of the country and keep them out. Number two, though, if you legalize marijuana and at least attempt to partially decriminalize, not even fully, but partially decriminalize, as in reschedule the psychedelics, you can focus on dealers and it won't be a public relations problem. Another big problem is you have your community crack dealer, your community meth dealer in some, in small town America. You have one or two people maybe, and they're like the dedicated heroin people. And people leave them alone. Nobody's going to rat them out. Number one, they might be afraid to. Number two, they're probably addicted. You go to the inner city, yeah, you've got whack crack daddy on the corner with his little white bags. Nobody's going to rat him out. They know better. They're going to be in league with some gang, or they're addicted anyway, or it's just nobody fucking cares because they don't want to call the police to their corner. They don't want the police stay away from those neighborhoods. They don't want them in their neighborhoods. They've heard too many horror stories about the media. If you can clean up the image of police as not being interested in beating down some pothead or some hippie who's just taking shrooms, and focus on the dealers of actually dangerous substances, you will no longer have this crisis. That's half of the problem taken care of right there with just the scheduling policy. The other half is addiction treatment. And that's going to be far easier to do. Look, if we stop diverting all of these retarded resources to taking care of some pothead hippie and put it into going after dealers and getting people treatment, there's a lot more money to go around. And because mass incarceration has ended, you know what? These states will have more money too. I had someone the other day on Twitter. I made my post about the drug war. Now Sessions is fucking inept because of this crap. And they're like, oh, and their username was like American Taxpayer or something, like Tea Party crap. And they're like, oh yeah, fuck the hippies, huh? I'm glad that they're going to jail, and you know, fuck the inner cities. They should go to jail too because they're all Democrats or something. Okay, that's very, I'm assuming some of that's tongue-in-cheek. If you're concerned about wanting to lower the tax rate and wanting Uncle Sam not to overreach in every other aspect, like this goes hand in hand with the moral policing of the Second Amendment. You do realize that, right? The same people are pushing for both. Oh, it's for the children. We've got to clean up our communities so we can't have these fucking assault rifles. Oh my God, it's military hardware. And at the same time they say, oh, you know, weed. I don't want little Jimmy to smoke weed ever. I want him to be a pure angel. I want him to be a virgin, fucking nerd virgin forever. So we can't have this in our white neighborhood or something like that. Or we need to be tough on crime because, you know, it's worked so well for the last, what, 5 decades. It works so fucking well that, you know, the addiction rate keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. Another part, probably the only other important part to this. So you start focusing on the dealers of hard drugs and the cartels and stuff. You clean up resources to get people into addiction treatment. The third, tell the fucking pharmaceutical companies and doctors to stop giving out opioids like candy to people. They give it to, you don't even have to be 18. He goes, oh, here's a prescription, here's Percocet, here's Vicodin. Here's all these fun pills. You get to feel really, really good. By the time they get done with like the pain relief from whatever minor surgery, they gave me a big-ass bottle of Percocet when I got my wisdom teeth out. Okay, years and years ago, I get my wisdom teeth out. They give me Percocet and ibuprofen. Now, Percocet is addictive. It's a painkiller in the same general class as all of these others. I can't even remember how many pills they gave me. On the street, it would have been like a fucking $500 bottle of Percocet. Now, I took one and I felt nauseous and puked. I didn't take any more of them because what the fuck's the point? If I'm puking all over these, like, you know, tooth stumps that are left in my, I'm probably gonna, you know, undo this stitching. It's gonna hurt way worse. It's like acidic. It's like fucked up. I just took the ibuprofen and sucked on popsicles for several days. And I felt fine, generally speaking. But other people, they take the painkiller. By the time they're done with that course, they want more. They're totally addicted. They're totally reliant now. It's gone beyond just pain relief. Wouldn't you rather them just fucking smoke a joint? Yeah, they might still be in pain. It'll dull it a little bit, not as much as an opiate, but they'll be too high to care. They'll forget about it. They'll sit there giggling at their own pain. Let them do that for a few days. Who cares if they get addicted to marijuana? It's going to fuck them up a lot less. There are people. I've known plenty of people. Very talented people. People going for like a PhD program, a master's degree, something. They work in engineering. They're way, in an academic sense, they're way smarter than me. And they're smoking up constantly. I had one roommate in college. As far as I know, he's going for his PhD in philosophy right now. Really smart dude. He's sitting there, he's processing DMT. He's fiddling around with mescaline. He's sure as hell smoking marijuana. And he's drinking heavily. And yet here he is in a suit and tie going off to get a master's degree and shit. I'm sitting there. I was smoking weed. I dropped acid. I took mushrooms. I never touched the hard drugs or some of the more loopy psychedelic, you know, like the ecstasies or something. I was doing all these substances. For months and months, I was doing psychs constantly. I was constantly using like Morning Glory and getting like loads of amanita mushrooms and stuff. I was doing that for quite some time. Did it screw me up long term, or do I seem like I'm still intelligent? Most people, if you're on the channel, you probably think the latter. Well, yeah. It didn't suddenly make me see dogs jumping through the walls and stuff like that. It's very, very odd at the time. You're hallucinating and so forth, and then at the high ends. All this stuff about staring at the sun on LSD until your eyes melt out of their sockets, or killing yourself on salvia, building an altar in your living room and asphyxiating yourself with an indoor charcoal grill. That's all fantasy land. None of these tales were ever true. The reefer madness stuff is recycled over and over and over again in slightly different forms. Ecstasy in the 90s. Oh, this girl died at a party on ecstasy. The only drug in her system was ecstasy. No, it wasn't. It wasn't ecstasy she was taking, not MDMA. It was something totally different. Inhalants. Oh, your kids, they're going to get high off inhalants and put a fucking bag over their head and start masturbating. And so you need to make sure they don't touch the whipped cream and stuff. It's propaganda, people. Put out by the Just Say No stuff. I remember when I was in high school, we had this one little sheet. Interesting story. Really funny story for you, I think. Was in high school. I think it was like 10th grade, maybe. They had this like anti-drug tale, and it was just this little like 2-page readout, and there's this story, fictional of course, about this kind of hippie dude and his friend who's female, and they're, you know, straight-laced kids, they're having a good time, and he's like, hey, you want to try some pot? And so he becomes a weed smoker, and then it progresses to this story, and years later he's like in this crack den. He's strung out on heroin, he's blitzed on crack. He's doing meth. He's like, you know, using too many marijuanas. He's injecting too many marijuanas. And finally, his female friend, who's still like, you know, very, very prudent and chaste and sort of the archetype of suburbia, just stops talking to him, and last she knows he's like totally strong. And then she gets the report, of course, he fucking died of an overdose. His family's sad. She's like, oh, well, that's what happens when you get on this dark path. I told him not to. It's just propaganda. Now, you know what wouldn't happen if we didn't have a drug war going on? People wouldn't be dying alone and cold in a crack den, strung out of their mind, because they'd be able to get addiction treatment. If you're addicted to, it's like tobacco treatment. You call up the fucking hotline, get your patches, get your Nicorette gum or whatever it is. Can you do that with crack? Can you call them up and say, oh yeah, I'm addicted to crack. I need something to help me here. I wanna go and get clean. No, you probably you don't think to do that because you don't want the hassle. You don't want the bureaucracy, and you sure as hell don't want the police breathing down your neck. So until you actually pass out in an alley and get picked up by the cops, you probably don't get addiction treatment. There are treatment programs for the youth in this sense, and that's helping with that problem. For anyone who's not within that scope, or they're in a state that doesn't really have a good rehab system, they're fucked. Yeah, they're totally fucked. And a lot of these like rehab places, they're like hyper-religious. It's like the AA or something like that, which also is questionable as to their capability. Because seek God. Yeah, God's going to help you get off crack. Yeah, just pray some more. That helped Ted Haggart to stop smoking meth. Yeah, it really helped him to stop having gay orgies with, you know, crack hookers and stuff like that. No, it doesn't. Jeff Sessions is totally wrong. Tough on crime doesn't work. Any more than it would work, by the way. Oh, you would look at like school shootings and stuff. Oh, we need to be tough on guns. We need to make it tougher to buy guns. Fuck self-defense. Fuck all that stuff. Oh, we need to be tough on harassing speech. I encouraged this other person. I said, well, if you want moral policing, you should become a Democrat and push for more hate crime legislation. It's the same fucking thing. It's the moral police, the pearl clutchers. Oh no, little Jimmy, my white suburban child might smoke a joint at some point. Or something like that. Or Lordy Lord, I sure do hate these police. It doesn't work. The drug war is an abysmal failure. It will never work. Doubling down on it will make the problem worse. Watch what happens. It'll make the problem worse. For a very short time, you'll get a temporary fix to the problem. A little bit. Because you'll drag in some more dealers. You'll drag in some more cartel members. And then more will go to fill that vacuum because it's lucrative. It'll drive the prices up. And more people will end up addicted because they'll be pushing it off on more people with record profits. Watch what happens. It won't work. If you believe in Americana, if you believe in supporting our nation, how the fuck can you support a drug war? Now, you're just worried about these substances because you don't even realize they're different. They're not all the same. Their effects are different. The rate of addiction is different. The rate of fatality is different. How we should handle them is different. As far as marijuana goes, it should be like tobacco or alcohol. It's not even really that powerful. Yeah, have you ever smoked it? Most of you, the answer is yes. Some of you, the answer is no, and yet you still have an opinion on whether it should be legal or not. You've never tried it. You've never smoked it. You don't even know how it affects you. You know what it's going to cause you to do? You'll stare at your fingers a little. You'll get hungry. You'll probably get sleepy and giggle a little bit. That's what it's going to do to you for a couple of hours. Then that high is going to go away. And you're probably not going to get addicted to it. You might get habituated, get used to smoking, after meals. Yeah, I smoke a pipe, man. Who fucking cares? You can do that with alcohol. You can have a beer after your meals. You can smoke a cigarette after your meals. You can have a cup of coffee with your meals. This is a drug. It's probably more powerful than marijuana when you really think about it. You get a good strong brewed cup of coffee versus some fucking, non-dank street weed, something that, is like cardboard or something. Yeah, there's a big difference between the strength of the two. Jeff Sessions is fucking retarded. He should be in a different role. Trump should take him out of that role, get somebody else with more common sense in there, and then put Sessions somewhere else. Get him to do something he's good at. That's about all. Peace out.